You know, I cannot believe how football is right at the centre of the political crisis or political farce in Tasmania. Today, Tasmania's Parliament passed the vote of no confidence in Liberal Premier Jeremy Rockliff, forcing him to quit or indeed to call a snap election, which is what he's going to do. But the football, I mean, it's not just that Rockliff was being monstered for letting the price of a new football stadium in Hobart blow out by more than $200 million. And this is because the Ritzy Stadium demanded by the AFL as a condition of letting Tasmania have its own AFL team. Today, the Speaker, who's actually a Labor MP, because the Liberals don't have enough members of their own in this coalition, whatever, cast her deciding vote against Rockliff, despite knowing that forcing him to the polls could kill the whole deal. So she pleaded with the MPs not to let it.
I am also very mindful that the future of the AFL teams will be tested by the decisions and actions of the next few weeks. I support the team, but members of this House should not underestimate the passion.
Oh, for heaven's sake, what are the priorities in Tasmania, or in this country, really? So Tasmania's off to the polls again, just 14 months after the last state election, because Rockliff wasn't going to let some other Liberals simply replace him.
And I'll be damned if the Labor Party is going to choose the leader of the Liberal Party that I love.
Joining me is our Thursday regular commentator, Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce, the former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby, great to see you. I mean, when you look at this crisis in Tasmania, don't you think too, what is this country coming to?
Well, you see that in so many areas, don't you, Andrew? Like we see it in other areas where apparently net zero is more important than the defence of our nation. That the government in Tasmania is now, it's all about whether a football team's going to, an AFL team's going to play, and this sort of peculiarity of I'm going to bring down the government, but I still support the football team, which is where the Speaker was. And there's always this idea to try and look over here because the actual real problems that are at foot are beyond the scope of the government to fix. I mean, how are we dealing at a national level with the cost of living crisis? Like people believe it's all over. It's not over. It's roaring ahead.
Oh,
Price
no.
of power roaring ahead. And down there, it's a football team. And what is going to be the outcome of this, really? If it's genuine in Tasmania, the football team playing in Tasmania is dead. It's over. It's finished.
Honestly, to spend nearly $1 billion in that little tiny state on a new football ground just to get an AFL team, it's just seriously skew whiff. Barnaby, the Albanese governor's meanwhile running out of money as well. Yeah. And of course, as we all know, one of its very first actions is it's determined to double the tax on superannuation earnings of accounts with more than $3 million, and even tax unrealised capital gains as well of assets that you haven't even yet sold to realise that gain, which for farmers who've got their farms in the super, that could include selling off part of their farms just to pay the bills. The Prime Minister is getting hammered on this because this does not apply to his own super, any defined benefit super, whatever the government claims. Here he is today, again, by the way, a bit tetchy.
So is it fair though for those farmers?
What we need to do is to make sure that our superannuation system is fair. That is what we are setting about to do.
What are you making of all this, Barnaby?
Well, let's call for what it is. This is death duties where you don't have to die. What happened with death duties in the past is people had to pay probate on an asset they had no intention to sell. And so they couldn't find the money, so they had to sell the asset. Or they were just in mountains of debt, struggled along, suffered along, and then ultimately got sold up. What we're having here is if you've got a farm that's in a super fund, and to be quite frank, a lot of farms that are multi-generational, it might be a $10 million property, but their family's got no intention whatsoever of selling it. It is in their blood. So lately we've been having an 18% increase in the value of land because they're just not making any land around the globe and the world's running out of food. So that would mean you had a $1.8 million unrealised capital gain. And if you're going to pay 30% tax on that, then 318s when I went to school is 54, you'd have to find $540,000 a year for each year of the 18% gain to send off to Dr. Jim Chalmers. Now, there is no farm that's going to be able to do that. If they could make $540,000 without thinking about it, they'd be making it. This is ludicrous. We would even go into a drought. You still might be capital gains, and they'll still have to pay this tax. The only place they can go is the bank. They'll go there once, they'll go there twice, and then they get sold up. I mean, you've got to understand. They've got this massive debt, $1 trillion in debt sitting out there, and nobody can work out, how am I going to pay this? But there was one big egg that was sitting there. They all knew it, but they didn't know how to crack it. It's your super money. It's the trillions of dollars that are sitting there, around about $4 trillion, I think, sitting there in super. And then they go, we're just going to use some of their money to pay our debt. It's so simple. But we've got to crack the egg in this way. We'll start with the $3 million unrealised capital gains non-indexed. And then once that goes through, well, the game's on. So, it surprised me how much this should be front page every day, because it is absolutely the start of a death duties by self, and it is also the cracking of the egg of your retirement.